Thanks for tuning in to Operation Revenge. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin the story. I just walked in from the Southern branch, having wrapped up a 3-month logistics contract, when I made the mistake of checking the community college savings account I'd set up for Mia, the account that was supposed to secure her future, her dream of mechanical engineering at trade school. There it was, $61,300 gone. Every penny, withdrawn in a single transfer. I sat there, staring at the screen. Number I pulled up the authorization logs, my fingers stiff as they hovered over the mouse. The account was joint. Mia and I both had to approve anything major. This wasn't supposed to happen. The logs confirmed it. Dual authorization. One name was mine. The other? Candace's, my sister. I hadn't seen her in months. Last I heard, she was still bouncing around motels, complaining about her ex, the city, and how life had done her dirty. She'd barely been in contact. I opened her Instagram. I had to see it for myself. There it was. A photo of her holding a glass of wine, a view from some rooftop. The caption read, "Leveled up. Finally claiming what I deserve." The post date? 3 days after the money vanished. My stomach clenched. This wasn't just a mistake or a moment of weakness. It was a choice, a deliberate one. My hands went cold, not from shock, but from the seething rage that bubbled up. I wasn't going to let this go. Not now. Not ever. I could feel the pressure of the situation, the weight of it all, but it didn't matter. Candace was going to pay. I kept staring at the screen. The longer I did, the more I realized I wasn't about to confront her. Not yet. I needed to build something solid first, something airtight. She'd taken Mia's future. I wasn't going to make some emotional outburst. I was going to be smart, calculated. I took screenshots of everything, the authorization logs, the Instagram posts, timestamps, anything that could help. I checked her past posts, looking for more clues. Mia had been around long enough to pick up my habits, my mindset. She didn't even have to ask. She knew what I was doing. "Checking the account, huh?" she asked, her voice quiet from the other room. She didn't need to see the screen to know. I nodded. "Yeah." She slid her school tablet over, tapping away before I could even react. Within seconds, she pulled up Candace's login through her mobile IP. She was good, better than I could have imagined. She used a public Starbucks by my school. Thought she was clever. I raised an eyebrow. She's lucky she didn't slip up more. Mia didn't flinch. She did slip up. You just have to know where to look. I watched her, completely stunned. Mia wasn't some innocent 13-year-old anymore. She was methodical, laser-focused. I saw the way her mind worked now. We spent the next few hours piecing everything together. Logins, timestamps, transaction routes. We even started preparing a report for the bank's fraud unit. Mia's eyes were sharp, her fingers steady on the keys. By the end of it, we had something concrete, an airtight case. I started to call her my little blueprint for the way she pieced everything together. We weren't just protecting Mia's future anymore. We were going after Candace, but we were going to do it right. I didn't call Candace, didn't scream. I just sat there at the kitchen table while Mia ate cereal across from me, her spoon scraping the bowl a little too loudly. I hadn't said a word about what I found in the account. I didn't need to. She already knew something was wrong. She was watching me, studying me. After a minute, she asked, "You're checking the account, huh?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Mia slid her tablet over to me. "You don't have to do it yourself." She tapped a few times and opened a folder labeled Trace. My eyebrows shot up. I didn't even ask. I didn't need to. She was already 3 steps ahead of me. She scrolled through a few screens, eyes flicking across the data. She logged in through a mobile IP. It bounced through a VPN, but I caught the fallback location. I leaned in. "You're telling me you tracked her?" She looked up, cool and unflinching. "She used a public Starbucks by my school, thought she was clever." I stared at her, stunned. She wasn't some naive kid anymore. This was methodical, surgical. Mia was already piecing together the puzzle, faster than I could keep up. I rubbed my temples, trying to push back the anger. Candace hadn't just stolen from us. She'd left a trail, and Mia was on it, like she was born to hunt down this kind of shit. This wasn't going to be some messy confrontation. We weren't going to blow up Candace's life on a whim. We were going to build something airtight, something she couldn't talk her way out of. We worked quietly for the next few hours, side by side. Mia fed me instructions when I got stuck, pointing out timestamps, transaction routes, any inconsistency we could leverage. I kept it all together, compiling everything in an airtight document. Transaction histories, the login patterns, The way Candace had jumped between devices trying to cover her tracks. But Mia had caught her at every turn. By the time we finished, the submission to the bank's internal fraud unit was ready. I was still digesting the weight of it all. I'd never pictured it like this. Never thought I'd be here with my 13-year-old daughter, mapping out a digital paper trail to take down my own sister. I glanced over at her. She wasn't smiling, but there was something about the way she sat, calm, unshaken. Her focus, her precision, it was impressive. It was like she was born for this. "Guess I need to get used to this," I said, more to myself than to her. Mia didn't respond. She didn't need to. Instead, she swiped through a few more files on her tablet, checking for anything we missed. After a beat, she said, "I think it's all here. Every detail we need." I nodded. "You're not just my daughter, you know that?" She glanced up, eyes sharp. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're my little blueprint. You're the one who figured all this out." She didn't even crack a smile, just the tiniest flicker of acknowledgement in her eyes. "Maybe," she said, "but it's not about the blueprint. It's about finishing it." And that was it. No grand declarations, no over-the-top reactions. Just quiet resolve. We weren't done yet. But with every step we took, the endgame was becoming clearer. We had Candace cornered. She just didn't know it yet. Candace started posting more after that. Pictures of herself, relaxing at spas, standing in front of a luxury kitchen, wine glass in hand, looking like she had it all figured out. Motivational captions, "Know your worth," "Living my best life," the usual bullshit. But I noticed something. There were no tags, no mention of a job, no reference to how she'd afforded any of it. I didn't say anything to Mia right away, but I could feel the shift. Candace was digging herself deeper into a hole. It was like she was trying to flaunt it, to get under my skin. I don't know what her endgame was, but the more she posted, the more I wanted to know. Mia wasn't fazed. She didn't flinch when she saw the posts. Instead, she looked at me, a smirk tugging at her lips. She opened her burner account, the one we'd been using to track Candace's online behavior. Quietly, without drawing attention, she started commenting on the photos. "Love this view. What's the mortgage company?" She typed under a picture of Candace standing in front of a floor-to-ceiling window, the skyline visible behind her. She left it there, no immediate response. A few minutes later, Mia commented again, "Is this the condo from address listing?" under a post showing off Candace's kitchen, a sleek marble island catching the light just right. Candace didn't reply, but she deleted the posts, all of them. I watched as Mia scrolled through her feed, checking the other photos, waiting for any sign of a response. It was like Candace was unraveling in real time. I could feel the pressure building, but Mia just kept watching, calm as hell, as if she were in control of the entire situation. A few days later, I sent a discreet inquiry to the condo association where Candace had posted pictures from. I didn't call, didn't use my name, just an anonymous email, citing concerns about the legitimacy of her ownership and whether there were any public records to back it up. No one noticed it came from me. Mia kept her burner account active, leaving subtle comments here and there. But Candace had stopped posting the kinds of updates she had before. She'd gone silent. The silence, though, was the loudest thing about this whole mess. And Candace, she started calling our extended family, not just to check in, but to spin her own version of events. She told them she was being harassed online, that someone, us, was digging into her life and trying to tear her down. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I let her talk. She didn't know that, even as she called relatives and played the victim, I was already pulling strings behind the scenes. Mia had sent her part of the puzzle to the Financial Crimes Division through a friend of mine at Internal Auditing. We were setting it up, layer by layer. Candace might have thought she could cry harassment to buy herself time, but it was too late. We were already building something much bigger than she realized. We weren't just waiting anymore. We were moving ahead, quietly, methodically, and there was no going back for her. The message came in one evening, just after dinner. I'd barely finished cleaning up when I saw it, an email from a burner address. No subject line, just the message. "Stop digging. You're making a mistake." I stared at it for a second, trying to guess who sent it. I knew Candace well enough to know she wouldn't write it herself. Her spelling was better than this. It wasn't her, but I had a feeling who it was. I opened the email and read it again. There was no threat, just a warning, a push to stop. She thought I'd back off. I wasn't going to. Mia sat beside me, reading the screen over my shoulder. I glanced at her. What do you think? She didn't hesitate. She's not scared of prison. She's scared of exposure. I nodded. That hit it on the head. Candace wasn't afraid of getting caught. She was afraid of the truth coming out, of everyone seeing her for what she really was. A scam artist, a thief. We didn't stop. We kept building our file, the pieces clicking together more clearly with every step. Mia started creating an alias, one that didn't trace back to us, and sent a detailed timeline of all the activity to a national financial fraud watchdog. She knew what to do. She'd been watching me work long enough to understand the gravity of it. Meanwhile, I was preparing civil paperwork. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I wasn't even doing it because I hated Candace. I was doing it for documentation, quiet accountability, something I could keep in case I needed it down the line. We weren't making noise. We weren't burning bridges. But we were building a case, and that felt better than anything else. The next day, I spent the evening encrypting everything we'd gathered: files, screenshots, emails, every last detail of Candace's movements laid out clearly. I made sure everything was backed up in 2 separate drives. One stayed at home, the other came with me to work. I stashed it in my locker, hidden away where no one could see, just in case. I didn't trust Candace. I didn't trust anyone, really, but I especially didn't trust her, and I wasn't taking any chances. Mia didn't ask questions. She was focused, the same way she had been when we first started. I could feel her keeping track of the details even when I wasn't. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't emotional. She was methodical. When we were done for the night, Mia looked up from her tablet. "Do you think she knows?" I paused before responding. "She knows we're on to her, but she doesn't know how far we've gone." "Good," Mia said, eyes narrowing. "Let's keep it that way." And so we did. Quiet, calculated, no noise, no threats, just a steady, unrelenting march forward. We were ready. All we had to do now was wait. A few days later, the bank put a temporary freeze on Candace's account. It wasn't permanent, not yet, but it was enough to make her start questioning things. Mia had filed an anonymous tip claiming to be a concerned joint account holder, and the fraud unit had acted fast. Candace tried calling me right after it happened. Her name flashed on my screen, but I didn't pick up. I couldn't, not yet. Instead, I printed out the zeroed-out savings log and mailed it to her with no return address. Just the numbers, nothing else. A week passed, and I watched Candace's Instagram feed disappear. All of it. Every single post. No pictures, no stories, nothing left. It was like she vanished into thin air. Mia didn't say much, but I could see it in her eyes. "She's unraveling," she said, breaking the silence. I nodded, but the feeling in my chest was something different than relief. Candace was trying to keep it together, but she wasn't the only one who knew what was happening. Soon after, I started getting calls. Candace was reaching out to extended family, cousins, even our old babysitter, trying to spin the story. She was telling them she was being harassed online, that someone was attacking her. It was the same lie she always told when things got tough, trying to paint herself as the victim. But this time, it wasn't working. Not like it used to. I heard from a friend who sat on the condo board where Candace lived. He told me they'd received an anonymous inquiry about her cash source and were now reviewing residency. I didn't need to ask for details. I could hear the implication in his voice. They were digging into her, too. I sat on my porch that evening, staring out at the fading light. The sun was low, the sky bruising into dusk. It felt quiet, almost peaceful, but I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence was only temporary. I leaned back in my chair, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, just watching, waiting. The real storm hadn't hit yet, but I could feel it coming. The air had that weight to it, thick with what was about to break. We had the proof. We had the patience. Candace didn't know what was waiting for her, but I knew it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. The calm before the storm, but we were ready. The calls started coming in just as I expected. Extended family, the ones who never seemed to mind Candace's drama before. They were all concerned, all suddenly worried. The first one was a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. "It's just money," he said, like that somehow made everything okay. "You don't need to go legal over this." I nearly threw the phone. My hand curled around it so tightly that I could feel the heat of my frustration rising, but I didn't reply. I didn't say a word. The next few were more of the same. "She's your sister." "This doesn't need to get messy." I kept my mouth shut. Let them talk. They didn't know. They didn't understand. They didn't see what Candace had done, what she'd taken. Mia was sitting next to me when I checked the voicemail. I could tell she'd overheard part of it. She didn't say anything at first, just kept fiddling with her phone, looking through her scholarship options. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but sharp. They're more worried about her than what she did to me. I nodded, not sure how to respond. That's how silence survives, through excuses. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal, the trust. Candace had stolen from Mia's future, and now everyone who should have supported us was making excuses for her. Mia didn't seem affected by it, though. She didn't look upset or frustrated. She was calm, focused. I could see it in the way she scrolled through her tablet, comparing scholarship programs, weighing her options. The anger wasn't in her face anymore. It was in her actions. That night, we sat in the garage with cocoa in hand, the only light coming from the small lamp on the workbench. Mia wasn't watching TV or zoning out. She was sitting next to me, going through scholarship applications and jotting down ideas, talking through each option like it was the most important thing in the world, like it was the only thing that mattered. I watched her for a moment. You're not going to let her set the ending, huh? She looked up at me, her eyes steady. Number, I'm not. I'm going to write it myself. I swallowed, the tightness in my throat threatening to choke me up. I didn't say anything for a moment. I wasn't going to add to it. Good, I finally said. You write it. She gave me a small nod, like she had already made her choice. There was no hesitation in her voice. There was no question. Mia had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let Candace take anything else from her, not her future, not her peace of mind. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt a small flicker of hope. Mia wasn't just my little blueprint. She was something more. She was already taking charge of her own story. And I was going to help her write it. I was sitting at my desk when the call came through. The name on the screen, Ryan, took me by surprise. We'd served together in the National Guard years ago, but we hadn't talked much since then. Did Candace offer to manage my pension rollover? Ryan's voice was low, cautious, like he already knew the answer. My stomach dropped. What? I managed, the word feeling foreign as it left my mouth. Ryan went on, his voice edging into frustration. She's been calling, offering to handle my pension. Said she's got a great plan to grow it. I told her I'd think about it, but something's off, man. My mind raced. Candace wasn't just taking from Mia and me. She'd been pitching fake investment deals to people I once trusted. It was a pattern I should have seen sooner. I could feel the weight of everything start to shift. The lines she'd crossed weren't just about the money she'd stolen from Mia. She was deeper in it now, deeper than I ever imagined. Listen, I said, forcing the words out through my clenched jaw. I'll call you back. I need to check on something. I hung up, the reality of the situation crashing down harder than I'd expected. Candace wasn't just a thief. She was running a scam, one that stretched further than I'd known. I knew what I had to do. There was no turning back now. Mia was in the other room when I went to her. I need your help with something, I said, and I could see the instant recognition in her eyes. She nodded without question. You think she's been running a scam? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was already pulling up the files we'd gathered, reviewing everything we had. We needed to do this the right way. We weren't going to leave any gaps, not now. We drafted a final report, detailing the digital forgery, the account impersonation, the unlicensed asset management. Mia pulled the records we had, laying everything out in black and white. The pattern was unmistakable. Candace had built a network of people she could swindle, offering them a false sense of security, promising returns she couldn't deliver. It was a house of cards, and it was about to fall. When we finished, I uploaded everything to an anonymous account and submitted it directly to the Securities Fraud Division. We weren't playing games anymore. This wasn't just about Candace anymore. This was about exposing everything she'd done, making sure it didn't go any further. It didn't take long for things to move. A week later, news broke quietly, almost too quietly. The headline read, "Local Woman Under Scrutiny for Financial Misconduct." It was buried in the local section, but the photo they ran of Candace was unflattering. Her eyes were wide, her smile stiff, the image screaming, "Caught." The lie had finally caught up with her. I didn't feel satisfaction as I looked at the article. I felt something else. Something heavier, the weight of knowing that no matter how many steps we took, we weren't going to stop until the whole truth was out. Candace had made her choices, and now she had to face them. There was no running anymore. I leaned back in my chair, the quiet settling in. Mia walked by, not looking at the screen, but I knew she had seen the news too. She didn't need to say anything. The final piece had fallen into place. We weren't finished, but we were getting closer. The day of Candace's hearing arrived, but I didn't show up. I didn't need to. Instead, I sent a letter, one Mia wrote herself. It wasn't long, but it was clear, to the point. To the aunt who said family is forever, it began, I guess forever isn't as long as you think. You took what was mine, but you didn't take me. You won't get that from me. You'll never get that from me. Mia's words were raw, honest. She wasn't interested in revenge. She was interested in being heard. When the judge called for the letter, I could hear the silence in the courtroom. Mia's letter was read aloud. I couldn't see Candace's face, but I could imagine it. The weight of every word, the reality settling in. The judge didn't ask for much else. Candace didn't speak. She didn't make a deal. She didn't try to spin her story like she had with the family, didn't try to play the victim. She didn't have a defense. The decision came quickly. 10 years. A 10-year bar on fiduciary access. She couldn't manage anyone's finances, not legally, not for a decade. But there was no jail time, no harsh punishment, no public humiliation, just public consequence. It wasn't enough to make her regret it all, but it was a start. I didn't feel any satisfaction. There wasn't a sense of victory in that moment. There was only the sharp, hollow feeling of knowing that it wasn't about money. Not really. It was about trust. The one thing Candace had broken, shattered, without a second thought. That night, Mia and I sat in the kitchen, the house finally quiet after the chaos of the day. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it had in days. Mia was sitting at the table, staring at the mug of cocoa in front of her. She didn't say anything at first. I was the one who broke the silence. I know you didn't want her to go down like that, I said quietly, my voice steady. But you made your point. She felt it. Mia looked at me, her eyes flat, unreadable. I didn't want her to go down. I just wanted her to feel it. I nodded. She did. She didn't smile, didn't crack, just nodded, the weight of everything resting on her shoulders. She didn't need to say more. Mia had always been the quiet one. But her words were enough. Candace might have avoided jail time, but that didn't mean she won. She hadn't won anything. Not really. She'd lost what mattered most, trust. And Mia? She hadn't just protected herself. She had taken control of her own narrative. The storm wasn't over, but we had made it through. And as I sat next to Mia, I realized something. We were done being silent. And we were never going back. A few months after the hearing, I made a change. I left my old job behind and started working at a nonprofit that helped military families protect their finances. It felt right, like I was putting everything I'd learned to good use. I wasn't in it for the paycheck anymore. I wanted to make sure no one had to go through what Mia and I did. Mia, on the other hand, had taken a different route. She launched a blog, Second Lock, dedicated to simple tips, resources, and red flags for protecting personal finances. At first, it was small, just a handful of posts. But then one of her articles went semi-viral. How to say no to someone you love. It was about setting boundaries when family or friends asked for money. I remember the first time I saw the comment section blow up. People were writing to her, sharing their stories. Some were simple, others heartbreaking. I trusted my uncle with my savings. My mom's boyfriend stole my check. Mia read every single one. She didn't just reply with a generic, "Thanks for the support." She wrote back personally, offering advice when she could, and always acknowledging their pain. I didn't know how she did it, how she stayed so level-headed and compassionate. Maybe it was her way of making sense of everything. Maybe it was just who she was now. It wasn't long before we started receiving letters, some from parents who had read her blog, others from kids who were in similar situations, just like Mia. One afternoon, a package showed up on the porch. The handwriting on the brown paper was unmistakable. It was Candace's. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. I stared at the box, my hand hovering over it. Mia walked by, glanced at it, then at me. She didn't say anything, just kept moving, but I could tell she'd seen it too. There was no rush to open it. I set the box down on the kitchen table and left it there. A few hours later, after dinner, I couldn't resist. I opened it. Inside was the old teapot from Grandma's kitchen, the one that had sat on the shelf for years, the one I remembered so clearly, with its chipped blue flowers and the faded handle. I hadn't thought about it in ages. There was also a note, a short one. "I know I can't fix it, but maybe I can return a piece of peace." I felt something. A dull ache hit me in the chest. Candace had never been good at saying sorry. It wasn't her style. She wasn't apologizing. Not really. But I knew what this was. It was her way of trying to offer something back, trying to offer peace even if it was too late. I didn't throw the teapot away, but I didn't open the door either. I left it in the box sitting on the table, a reminder that some things could never be fixed. Some things just stayed broken. That night, I sat with Mia, both of us in the quiet of the kitchen. She didn't ask about the package. She didn't need to. She already knew the truth. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Candace had tried. That teapot was her way of reaching out, of making peace. But some pieces, once broken, couldn't ever be glued back together. Mia took a sip of her cocoa, then looked at me, her eyes steady. Do you think she meant it? I thought about the note for a moment. Maybe, but it doesn't change anything. Mia nodded, like she understood exactly what I meant. She didn't want the teapot. She didn't want Candace's apology. She had her own piece now, one she built with her own hands. I left the teapot on the shelf, untouched, a relic of the past. Some things, like trust, couldn't be returned or fixed. But we had something better. We had a future. And that was enough. A year later, Mia and I were rearranging the living room. The furniture needed a change, something fresh, and I was getting sick of looking at the same layout every day. We were working in silence when I found the photo, one of the few I had left of all three of us together. Me, Mia, and Candace, smiling at a beach park years ago, before everything fell apart. My instinct was to toss it, to get rid of it. It felt like a reminder of something that didn't exist anymore. Mia saw me holding the picture, paused, and said, "Keep it." Not for her, for the memory that we tried. I hesitated for a second, then nodded. She was right. It wasn't for Candace. It was for us, for the time before things had gone sideways, for the reminder that we'd fought, even when it felt like we were losing. I framed the photo later that night, not to forgive, but to reclaim something, to remind myself that the past was still ours to hold, even if Candace had walked away from it. A few days after that, Mia posted a new blog. I saw her typing late that night, her focus sharp. When I checked the site the next morning, the title hit me hard. She took what was mine, but not who I am. Her words rang out clear and true. What someone steals can be replaced. But how we respond, that shapes who we become. I felt the weight of it, the truth that came with those lines. She'd written it for herself, but it felt like it was for both of us. We'd rebuilt, even when it felt like the world was taking from us. That afternoon, I sat beside her, the same old teapot between us, coffee brewed strong. I picked it up, took a sip, and for the first time, the past didn't feel as heavy as it once had. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable, but I knew the question was coming. You didn't go to war for revenge, did you? I shook my head. I went to protect what mattered. She looked down at her mug, quiet for a moment, then raised it, a small but purposeful smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Then we won. I didn't answer right away. I didn't need to. But as I sat there, watching her, I felt it, deep in my bones. We hadn't just survived. We had something more. We'd won. And this time, I finally believed it. Quietly, fully, we did.